Let me ask you something. You're lying in bed, middle of the night, and you wake up fully, completely awake. You can hear the hum of the AC. You can see the ceiling. You can feel the weight of your blanket, but you cannot move. Not a finger, not your jaw, not your eyes. Science calls it sleep paralysis. Your brain wakes up, your body doesn't. Simple enough explanation. Except, no one in a lab coat has ever explained this to me. Why do strangers, people in different cities, different states, who have never met, never talked, why do they describe the exact same voice, the exact same words, the exact same figure, standing in the exact same spot, 3 stories, 3 people, no connection between them? I'd turn the lights on before we get started. Lena was 26 years old when this happened, and she wants to be very clear about one thing right from the start. She was not a nervous person. She was not someone who scared easily, or catastrophized, or read too much into things that had mundane explanations. She had dealt with sleep paralysis since her freshman year of college. So for about 8 years at this point. And in all that time, she had gotten pretty good at handling it. She knew what it felt like. She knew the onset signs. She knew how to keep herself calm and just ride it out until her body caught up with her brain. Sleep paralysis for Lena had become an inconvenience, not a fear. That changed on a Tuesday night in late October. She'd gone to bed around 11. Nothing unusual about the day. She'd worked a full shift, eaten dinner, watched some TV, gone to sleep. Completely normal. She woke up at 2:48 a.m., which she knows because she'd glanced at her phone just before drifting off, and the clock had burned itself into her memory the way things sometimes do in the middle of the night. She was lying on her side, facing the wall. She recognized immediately what was happening. The heaviness in her chest, the strange too-still quality of the air, the way the room looked slightly wrong, like a photograph of itself instead of the real thing. She'd been here before. She knew what to do. Stay calm, breathe, wait. And then she heard the voice. It came from right beside her ear, not across the room, not from the doorway, right beside her head. Close enough that under any other circumstance, she would have felt breath on the back of her neck. The voice was quiet, calm, deliberate. Like someone who had thought carefully about exactly what they were going to say and exactly how they were going to say it. Like someone making a specific effort not to frighten her. It said, "Don't move." And Lena, who had been through this 30 times, who thought she had nothing left to be scared of, felt her whole body go cold in a way that had nothing to do with the temperature of the room, because this was different. Every other episode she'd ever had, there had been a background hum of anxiety, low-level dread. This was specific. This was the feeling of a person nearby, a real, physical, present person who had said words that made no sense for a hallucination to say. Don't move. Not a random fragment, not a nonsense sound, a complete sentence, a direct instruction, delivered with the patience of someone who had done this before. She stayed frozen. She couldn't have moved even if she wanted to. But now the stillness felt different, less like a symptom and more like compliance. She waited. The room stayed quiet. The presence beside her stayed quiet. And then, maybe 45 seconds later, the voice came back, same tone, same careful, unhurried delivery. "It's okay, I'll be gone soon." The episode broke maybe a minute after that. Lena sat upright, threw the lamp on, checked every corner of her bedroom, and then every room beyond it. She was alone. Door locked from the inside. Windows closed. She told her therapist. She told her doctor. Auditory hallucinations during sleep paralysis, both of them said. Your brain generating language isn't unusual. The content can feel very real and very intentional even when it isn't. She believed them. She genuinely, actively tried to. Then 6 weeks later it happened again. Same time of night. Same side of the bed, same locked-in feeling, and then the voice, right beside her ear. Don't move, a pause. It's okay, I'll be gone soon. Word for word, the same script, delivered with the same deliberate calm, like a recording playing back. After the second time, Lena made a phone call. She called her closest friend, a girl she'd known since high school, someone who had also dealt with sleep paralysis for years. But Lena didn't lead with her experience. She didn't describe what she'd heard. She just asked, as casually as she could manage, if her friend had ever heard anything during an episode. A voice, maybe. Her friend was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Yeah, actually, it happened twice." There was this voice. It said something about don't move, and then something about leaving soon. Lena did not speak for a long time. These two women had talked about sleep paralysis many times over many years, but neither of them had ever gotten into the specific content of what they experienced. No shared article, no podcast, no mutual source that could have planted the same suggestion in both of their brains. Different cities, different nights, no communication in between. Same voice, same exact words, same order. Lena's doctor had no clinical explanation for the convergence. Researchers had noted it, he said, but not yet accounted for it. Noted but not yet accounted for. Lena sleeps with the TV on now. Not for the noise. She's told people it's not about the noise. It's about the light. She doesn't want to be lying in the dark anymore when something calm and patient decides it has something to say. Omar was 31 years old, a software developer. The kind of person who defaulted to logic as a first response to everything, including things that scared him. He'd had maybe 3 or 4 sleep paralysis episodes over the years, short ones, nothing remarkable. He knew what they were, he knew how to handle them, and he genuinely didn't think much about it in between. He woke up paralyzed at 2:04 a.m. on a Thursday in March. He knows the time because he'd been checking his phone regularly that week due to a work deadline. With a presentation in the morning and a very specific desire to get this over with so he could go back to sleep. He was on his back. He stared at the ceiling. He ran through his mental routine. This is sleep paralysis. It'll pass. Relax. Don't fight it. Breathe. He was calm. He was handling it. Then he moved his eyes toward the doorway. There was a figure standing in the doorframe, tall, completely still. Not moving. Not making any sound. Just standing the way a person stands when they've been somewhere for a while, and they're comfortable staying. Omar couldn't make out a face. The hallway behind the figure was dark, and the figure itself seemed to absorb the dim light from the bedroom, rather than reflect it, like a shape cut cleanly out of the air. Omar told himself, visual hallucination, textbook, totally standard. He had read about this. He knew this was a thing. He focused on his breathing. He waited. The paralysis broke. He felt the familiar flood of movement returning. The ability to curl his fingers, roll his shoulders, take a full breath. He sat up. He looked at the doorway. The figure was still there. Same position. Same stillness. Omar, and I want to be clear, this took real composure, said out loud, in a completely level voice, "Dude, what are you doing?" The figure answered, "I heard someone talking in your room. Who were you talking to?" The voice was completely familiar. It sounded exactly like Drew, a friend from college who happened to be crashing on his couch that week while visiting from out of state. Omar got up. He turned the lights on. He walked to the doorway. Nobody was there. He checked the hallway, the bathroom. He walked to the living room, where Drew's blanket and pillow were arranged on the couch. Drew was asleep, completely out, breathing even and slow. Omar stood in his living room for a long moment. Then he went and woke Drew up. Drew was groggy, confused. Omar asked him directly, had he been up? Had he been standing in the bedroom doorway? Drew said no, said he hadn't moved from the couch, and then he paused. And he said something that made Omar sit down on the floor, right where he was standing. "Actually, I did wake up for a second. I heard a voice coming from your room. I figured you were on the phone or something, so I just went back to sleep." Omar had not been on the phone. He had been asleep, then paralyzed, then motionless, then spoken 4 words, in response to a figure that should not have been physically present. Before those 4 words, he had made 0 sound, but Drew had woken up to a voice in Omar's room at the exact same moment Omar was seeing a figure in his doorway, speaking to him in Drew's voice. Omar could explain his own experience: hallucination, misfiring brain, deadline stress. He had a framework for all of it, but Drew's experience existed completely outside that framework. Drew had been asleep on a couch in another room and woken up to something Omar could not account for. "The paralysis I've always been able to explain away," Omar said. But Drew hearing the voice, "That's the part I keep coming back to. That's the part I can't touch." He's had 2 more episodes since then. He hasn't seen the figure again, but he always checks the doorway now, every time, before he's fully sure he's awake. Petra was 28 years old when she moved into her first real apartment, not a dorm, not a shared house. A real, actual place that was entirely hers. Third floor of a converted building in a mid-sized city in the Midwest. She decorated it herself, hung her own curtains. She stood in the middle of her living room on move-in evening and felt genuinely, straightforwardly happy. She had never experienced sleep paralysis in her life. The first night, she woke up at 3:17 a.m. She couldn't move. Chest weighted, room slightly off. Fully awake, fully aware, completely unable to lift her own hand. She wasn't sure how long it lasted, maybe 2 minutes. When it broke, she sat up, turned on the lamp, looked around. Everything was exactly where she'd left it. She looked it up the next morning. Sleep paralysis. The description matched almost perfectly. First-time episodes weren't uncommon during periods of change or stress. She'd just moved across 2 states. That qualified. 1 episode, understandable. Totally fine. The next night, she woke up at 3:20 a.m. Same heaviness, same frozen stillness. And at the foot of her bed, for the first time, a figure. She couldn't describe it well, and she tried very hard to. It wasn't a silhouette exactly. It wasn't solid. It was more like a density. A place in the room where the air was different, where something that had weight and presence had settled and decided to stay, always at the foot of the bed, always in the same spot. And what she kept coming back to, not the visual, but the feeling, was the sense of being watched with a very specific, very patient kind of attention, like something that had nowhere else to be. Night 3, night 4, night 5, 7, 12, 28 consecutive nights. Every single night, in that narrow window between 3 and 4 in the morning, Petra would snap awake, paralyzed, chest heavy, figure at the foot of the bed, watching, waiting. She was exhausted, sleeping in fragments, waking up every night, already dreading what she knew was there. She tried everything, different sleep positions, different bedtimes, no caffeine, prescription sleep aids from her doctor, who blamed relocation anxiety. Nothing moved the figure. Nothing changed the timing. Nothing made it stop. She called her sister. Her sister was one of those steady, practical people. Didn't spook easily. Didn't dramatize. She came to stay for a few days, just to be there. First night, her sister slept on the pull-out couch in the living room. Petra woke up at 3:22 a.m., paralyzed, figure at the foot of the bed. Her sister slept through the night without waking. Second night was quieter. Petra slept better than she had in weeks. She started to wonder if just having someone in the apartment was breaking the cycle. The next afternoon, they were in the kitchen having coffee. Her sister set her mug down and said, carefully, that she'd woken up in the night. Not scared, not panicked, just awake, with a feeling she couldn't fully describe. Wrong was the word she kept using. Not dangerous wrong. Just off, like something in the apartment wasn't the way it should be. Petra asked her where the feeling was coming from. Her sister thought about it. Then she pointed, not toward the front door, not toward the kitchen, specifically toward Petra's bedroom. That end of the room, she said. The far end. Like at the foot of your bed, maybe. Petra had never told her sister where the figure stood. In every conversation they'd had over the past month, she'd said it was in her bedroom, near the bed. She had never once, to anyone, specified it was always at the foot, that exact position. Her sister had felt it from a different room, through a wall, in her sleep. They left the apartment that afternoon, bags packed, drove 4 hours to their parents' house and didn't go back. Petra paid the lease break fee, lost her deposit, walked away from all of it, and never once second-guessed that decision. She has not had a single episode of sleep paralysis since the day she left that apartment. Not once, in 4 years. I understand what sleep paralysis is, she said. I'm not saying the science is wrong. What I'm saying is, why did it stop the second I left? It was specific to that place, and my sister felt it too, without ever being told where to look. I don't have a tidy explanation for that. I don't think one exists. 3 people, 3 separate experiences, no connection between them. A voice that used the same words across 2 different cities. A presence that woke someone sleeping in another room. A figure that a second person located through a wall without being told where to look. Sleep paralysis is documented, real, clinically understood, up to a point. If any of tonight's stories hit close to home, or if something like this has happened to you, drop it in the comments. I read all of them. New video every week. Subscribe if you want more. Sleep well tonight, if you can.